Hey guys, Bombing Science here, and today we're going to do some flare reviews. We're going to have a bunch of caps, 3 different kinds of paint, and we're going to see how they compare in terms of flare tags. We've got Ironlak, Belton, and Flame Blue. If you're interested in any of these caps or any of these paints, they're all available on our website in the link below. So watch, enjoy, let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. So we're going to start things off with a New York Fat on some Flame Blue. And an important thing to remember when you're doing a flare tag is the distance from the wall, obviously. That's how you get the variety in the line, but also the speed at which you go. If you want to get a consistent line, you're going to have to vary the speed a lot because it's going to take a lot more time to get as thick of a line if you're going farther away than when you're really close. So bear that in mind as you try your flares at home. So the New York Fat is not one of the fatter caps, and so you really have enough time to get your thinner parts of the letter. However, it does take a lot of time to get the thicker areas to fill in, and so you have to be careful not to shake too much, not to get too much information there. And even then, there's some parts where I could have gone a lot thicker, and it was just harder with the New York Fat to really get that thickness in. So I'm going to try on the Flame still, but with a pink dot, and see how that fares, see how it's different, see how it's similar, and compare and see how it does. So the pink gives a lot more of a fuzzy line. It's really less consistent than the New York Fat. It feels as though the middle part is skinny and the outside is fuzzy. So if that's an effect you're looking for, you can really play around with that. And if you want a more consistent line, this may not be the right can for that. And I know that pink dots on certain types of paint create a much more pronounced effect like this, almost as if there's 3 lines to every stroke. But with Flame it doesn't do that. Now we're going to use the yellow Fat on the Flame, see how that does. So that's real nice. You can see I kind of didn't have that fully in control. It's much more difficult, but I really like the look of this. I really like the consistent flare. I like the way it changes from thick to thin. If you compare with the other ones here, it's much more pronounced in the middle and fuzzy on the sides. With the New York, it's less of an issue, but it still has very different thickness depending on where on the line it is. Whereas with the yellow dot, it really just gives a nice even line, an even stroke. So I'm a big fan of the way that looks. And now we're going to try the Aster Fat on the Flame and see how that fares. So Astro feels a little bit thicker still than the yellow dot with that same consistent stroke. I'm loving the way it looks. These are exactly what I personally enjoy in a flare tag. These sort of easy, effortless varieties in thickness, and the Astrofat does it effortlessly. I think it's really satisfying, and I think the Astrofat is often associated with that. That being said, it's not always easy to have, you know, enough space, and the circumstances aren't always perfect to drop an Astrofat tag this big and this flared out. And let's say you have a smaller space, you can't always fit in an Astro tag. So if you're looking to go a little bit more wide but still have some adaptability, I'd say that the yellow fat is a really good alternative. Now we're going to move on to Belton and see how that fares with the fat caps in terms of flares. So the New York Fat is a very controlled flare tag, but I really like this sort of flare tag for, let's say, if you're signing a piece or doing a little shout out, and also if you're just dropping regular tags and you want to flare them out a bit. I think New York is a really well-rounded cap. I'm a big fan personally of this cap, but yeah, if you want to really go all out, balls to the wall with your flare tags, maybe go with something more wild than the New York. Maybe try something a bit outside of your comfort zone and see how that does. Now we're going to move on to the pink dot on the Belton and see how that does. I really don't like this combination. I don't know if you could tell, but when I would go really far, like areas over here, the line work is just really not very satisfying to look at. It's very messy. It gives a really dirty look. Sometimes there's a place for that if you're trying to do, you know, some more abstract or hipster graffiti. I've seen some really nice stuff with this sort of line work, but if you're trying to get a nice, clean, crisp line, maybe stay away from this kind of cap plus flare combination. One thing I do want to say about using pink dots or New York Fats when you're doing flare tags is that it really requires a slower hand, and here you can see how my letters got really wonky because I didn't have any of my reflexive writing. I had to slow everything down, which made me think about things in a way I'm not used to, and it's an easy way to do less nice hand styles. Same with the New York Fat, although the New York Fat I could go a little bit quicker, but it's really an extra consideration when you're doing flare tags, that it's not just a question of slowing everything down, it's a question that when you do slow things down, your hand styles diminish in quality. So now we're going to move on to the yellow fat cap with the belt and see how that goes. Again, I'm a fan, I like it. With this hand style, I didn't choose to go from very fat to very skinny, so we can do a test line and see how that looks. It looks similar than with the flame. I'd say it's a good cap for flare tags. I'm a fan. And now we're gonna try the Astro Fats on the belt and see how fat and how crazy that can get. So again, I think the Astro is the king of flare tags, but it's not always the most practical one to carry around or to have in the street. So do keep that in mind. If you know that you're only going to be doing Astro Fat Cap tags in a night, then great. But if you're, you know, walking around, going to be dealing with different environments, different spaces, it's a less open-ended cap. You're sort of restrained to it, and there's a lot of things you won't be able to do with it. So keep that in mind, but it looks great. It's a lot of fun. Very satisfying to do. Now we're going to see how it feels with the Ironlak and the different fat caps and see how that fares. Alright, now we've got a New York Fat on an Ironlak red, and we're going to see how it fares in terms of flares. Looks good. Lets you go from fatter to skinnier. It doesn't give as much of a wide range as some other caps, but you know, if you're doing a small little flare tag, I think it's a very effective tag if it's placed in the right spot. So I like it, but it's not obviously as wild as a big Astro Fat Cap flare tag. Now we're going to see how it does with the pink dot. So it's not the right cap for flare tags, especially not with Ironlak, I'd say. I just wouldn't do it. If you like the way that looks, do it. See what you can do. I'm excited to see how you play around with it. But for me personally, it's really not the right way to do it. Now we're going to switch to the yellow fat cap and see how that does on Ironlak. With the Ironlak, we're seeing a bit more of a center line with the yellow fat cap flare. If you look here, it doesn't give as much of a faded line. So do keep that in mind. Maybe go with a different can if you're trying to do some flare tags with these. If that's the look you're into though, go for it. And I'm not by any means saying you can't do flare tags with Ironlak. I'm just saying it'll look like that with the more center line, less of an evened out, spaced out hand style. Let's see if it's any different with the Astro Fat. So again, we're seeing those center lines, and also the pressure seems a little bit lower, which means you have to slow down more to get the same amount of thickness. All in all, I'd say maybe Ironlak isn't the best paint for flare tags. Now I don't want you to watch this video and see that pink dots do this and tell yourself pink dot is not a good cap. I think pink dots are great, they're just not, no cap is good for everything. So what this does with this thin, fuzzy exterior is it's really good for fading. It's really good for blending one color into another. If you were to try to do the same effect with the New York Fat, you'd have a harder time because it would have a much crisper edge. So if you're trying to fade colors, I'd say pink dot is a good way to do it. Alright, so there you have it for the different fat caps and how they do flare tags on 3 different types of paint. We have the Flame, the Belton, and the Ironlak. Personally, I think that the Flame is the best paint for flare tags. I feel like, as far as I'm concerned, the less noise there is, within the center of a line, the more successful a flare tag is. And there's very little noise or information in the center of the lines with the flame. And I think that's great, especially with the yellow or the Astro. Astro is fatter than the yellow, but that makes it less adaptable to different circumstances. But it does give the fattest, loudest, best flare tags of all of them, in my opinion. Is the Astro fat on the flame beautiful. With the Belton, there's very little of that inner line with the hand styles. It's not a very big deal, but I just wanted to point it out so people could, you know, assess for themselves as best as possible. But it does give a really good fat cap flare tag as well. And with the Ironlak, I think there's a bit more of that noise. It's not a big deal, it's not a big concern. And some people prefer that inner line. They like to have that extra information. And it does give an extra type of character. It really depends on your style, what you're looking for, what you want to do. So I'd say those are the big differences, is that the flame gives the least amount of inner line and the Ironlak gives the most. But other than that, they all perform very well. They all take to the caps perfectly. So they're all good paints for flare tags. It just depends on what you're looking for. Thanks for watching. Let us know which your favorite flare tag is. And if I made any mistakes or said anything that's flat out wrong, please let me know in the comments. If you're interested in any of these caps or any of these paints, they're all available on our website in the link below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe and comment, share it with a friend. If it's something you're interested in, if you think anyone you know is interested in, we're happy to provide the information for you guys. Have a nice day.